Hello friends, I'm Dr. Vaibhav Sabnis. Today we are going to talk about Robert Frost's great poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Before we talk about the poem, let's have a look at the poet. Robert Frost is an American poet who is considered as a great nature poet. He is famous for the realistic depiction of rural life in his poems. His poems deal with social and philosophical themes. The famous poems are Fire and Ice, Mending Wall, etc. Good fences make good neighbors is a immortal and universal line from his poem Mending Wall. It is because of his matchless contribution to literature that he was nominated for the Nobel Prize for Literature 31 times. Now let's have a look at the poem. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening was written in 1922 and published in 1923 in his very famous New Hampshire volume. The poem is about the horse rider or the speaker. It is about the beauty of nature, depiction of nature. It is about simplicity of life. But at the same time, the poem is about determination, about promise, about responsibility, obligation and duty. The opening lines of the poem are like this. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. In the opening line, we see that the horse rider or the speaker is on his way to his destination. But while going, he finds there is a very beautiful spectacle. The lovely and dark woods are there. There is snowfall. He knows who the owner is and where he lives because it is his usual way. And that's why we find that the owner is not enjoying the woods, but the horse rider is enjoying the woods. He is enchanted by the beauty of the woods around. The woods are filled with snow and different images are used in the poem. It's a very hypnotic and enchanting picture, and the horse rider leaves no stone unturned to enjoy the beauty of this wonderful nature. In the next stanza, the poet says, My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. Here the horse thinks it is queer, it is strange, it is indifferent, so stop there, to pause there. Where there is no farmhouse around, there is no reason to stop. And that's why the poet says that my little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake. Because on one hand there are the beautiful dark deep woods, on the other hand there is a frozen lake. This frozen lake is useless. You cannot go and drink water there. It symbolizes death. It symbolizes infertility. And most importantly, it is the darkest evening of the year. And that's why it is not advisable or it is not sensible to stop there amidst such adverse factors around. In the next stanza, the poet says, he gives his harness bells a shake. That is, the horse gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The horse understands, realizes that the conditions are not conducive. They are not sensible conditions where you can stop and enjoy the beauty of nature. Because there are only two sounds, that is, the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. And that's why the horse gives his harness bells a shake to remind the owner, to tell the master that, Master, is there any mistake? There is no farmhouse, there is no person, there is no drinkable water, there is nothing to stop, and yet the master is stopping there. And that's why the horse finds it is something strange, queer, something indifferent, something unusual. And that's why he tries to remind, tries to warn his master about the mistake. In the next stanza, the poet says, the woods are lovely dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. This is the concluding stanza of the poem, which is immortal and universal. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, our first Prime Minister of India, quoted these lines in his autobiography. He used to keep these lines on his table also. These immortal lines tell us so many things. It is about our duty, our responsibility amidst beautiful, enchanting and hypnotic things around. There are many things like woods which are lovely, dark and deep. But is it our responsibility? Is it our promise? Or is it our work to stop and enjoy the beauty all the time? No, because there are miles to go before we sleep. Before our death, there are many things that need to be achieved. And that's why we need not get enchanted, we need not get engrossed. There are very beautiful things like woods in our life that attract us, that deviate us from our attention, from our future, from our career. And that's why our focus should be on our target, our focus should be on our destination. And that's why it's a very beautiful poem which gives delightful instruction to us. Apparently, we are given lots of beauty of nature. We get engrossed and lost in the beauty of nature, the beautiful spectacle of nature, the beautiful woods, the snowfall, etc. But at the same time, the poet reminds us that we are not born for this. We are born for something greater, something more than this. And that's why, though there are beautiful things like woods around, they are lovely, dark and deep. Wherever you see, they are there. They are very close to each other. They come in plenty to us. But I have promises to keep. That is not our duty. That is not our work to just appreciate them, enjoy them, watch them, observe them. Because there are many things before we die. There are many things before we sleep. So, Marave pari kirti rupi urave. We are also reminded of Tennyson's Ulysses, where Ulysses says, resting is rusting. So stopping here is dying, and that's why we should keep our journey ahead. There are very beautiful themes and literary devices employed by the poet in this poem. Let's have a look at them. The basic theme of the poem is the fundamental question of death. We are somewhere torn between birth and death, and our life seems to be very different. It is full of loneliness. It is full of the question of existence. We are born alone, we die alone, and the journey that we make is full of challenges. There are beautiful things around, yet we cannot enjoy them because our focus has to be on our targets. And that's why we are always caught between the beauty on one hand and duty on the other hand. It is the contradiction, it is the clash and conflict that we face in our life. We get entangled, we get engrossed, we get carried away, we get deviated and distracted by the beautiful things. These beautiful things come in any form. It comes in the form of beloved or lover, it comes in the form of movies and serials, or games or social media time pass, and we forget our duties. So the poem is not just about the writer, it is about you and me. It is about us. It is about the young, it is about the old, it is about everybody, because we have got commitment in every age, we have got obligation in every age. And that's why everybody has targets, goals, dreams, aspirations, ambitions, and promises, and we need to work for that. So, this momentary beauty is okay, such spectacles for a time being is okay, but for the long term goals, we cannot get carried away by such beautiful things in our lives. And that's why beautiful things can be very, very dangerous. We should be aware of them. So the frozen lake apparently is beautiful but signifies death, and that's why we should not get carried away by such beautiful things. Nature is a great consoler. The horse rider stops there, enjoys the beauty, is consoled, is relieved of stress, enjoys the beauty and forgets everything else. Nature for this horse rider is what nature to Wordsworth is, like the nurse, the friend, the doctor, and so on. But at the same time, our focus should be on our career, our future, the promises that we give. So, as a human being, we need to have a balance between the beautiful things of nature and other things, and our human life, our goals, our career. Work is worship. We should pay proper attention to our duty, our work. And that's why the poem is full of delightful instructions to all of us. The poem apparently is about nature, but when we go deeper, there is a hidden meaning that is given to us. There are various literary devices that are beautifully employed by this poet Robert Frost. There is imagery that we have seen on every slide of every stanza. Then there is hyperbole, like the darkest evening, and there is alliteration, there is personification, there is metaphor, there are various symbols, etc., that are employed in this poem, and they enchant us. Besides this, there are various symbols. The woods are not just woods, but they stand for temptation. They symbolize the mystery of the world. They are dark, they are lovely, they are deep. You go deeper and deeper and it never ends. So there are many things that tempt us in our life. They are never ending. But we shouldn't get lost in them. Because there is farmhouse and village, that is civilization and society is around you. You need to keep in touch with them. And most importantly, the speaker is not just the horse rider in the poem, but it is you and me. It is everyone. So here the horse is not just a horse, but the well-wishers that are around, our elderly people, our parents, our teachers, etc. And the harness bell of the horse that he shakes is not just the bell, but it is the warning given by many people, well-wishers, elderly people to us time to time. Frozen lake symbolizes infertility and unproductiveness. It looks beautiful, but it is useless. And the snowfall is really beautiful, but it symbolizes the beauty of death. Besides this, the darkest evening is the dangerous time. There may be some times, adverse times in our lives, and we need to be very alert, cautious during such times. And promises are not just promises that we give in the day-to-day life, but these are the tasks, these are the commitments, these are the duties, responsibilities, assignments, obligations, and we need to work for them. Lastly, the sleep is not just that human sleep that we have every night, it is the death. So before our death, we have to cover many miles. Before our death, we ought to do so many things, many things that we are capable of. So before we talk about alliteration, let me tell that there are many figures of speech that are employed in this poem, but alliteration is found in plenty. You can see whose, his, house, he, here, his. The her sound is repeated there, and the poem is very musical because of these effects. Besides this, the rhyming scheme is beautiful. You see in the first stanza it is AABA. The third line of the first stanza rhymes with the first, second and fourth line of the second stanza. That is how beautiful integration is there for the first three stanzas. But the last stanza again is integrated with the third stanza, where the third line of the third stanza rhymes with all the four lines of the last stanza, the concluding stanza. And the poet has employed iambic tetrameter in this poem. So these are the probable questions that can be asked in your UG or PG examinations. Thank you very much. So dear friends, don't stop. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, and we have miles to go before we sleep. Thank you.